lovely ladies back a little bit later on. Oh, my name's Quinlan. Welcome to Melbourne Musos Facebook Live. Every Friday on the dot, 6 o'clock. So, tonight, what I'd like to talk about. Counterpoint. What counterpoint is two intersecting melody lines and all that. Why am I talking melody? I'm a drummer, bloody hell. And what goes on is that one of the things that I do with my triggers and all that sort of biz is, I'll get rid of that, and is try and create something with rather than just, I love my rock, I love my jazz, I love everything else, and I do lots of things like that. But when I actually do the triggers and stuff, I do my best to actually be melodic, you see. Now, for the purposes of tonight's Face Jookeries, I'm actually going to be using the E-Mixolydian mode. Okay, Mixolydian mode is the first, second, third, fourth, sixth, flat 7, and the octave. Hello, Pooch, how are you? Hey! All right, so bomb the set again. There you go. Now, what happens is I'm doing that, and what I've got here is a pizzicato cello patch. Get it? Got it? Good. Now, when you're talking about counterpoint, I'll go a bit theoretical on you, and what happens is counterpoint, let me get to it. Counterpoint. In music, counterpoint is the relationship between two or more musical lines or voices, which are harmonically interdependent, yet independent in rhythm and melodic contour. I swallowed a dictionary, Chris. It has been most commonly identified in the European classical tradition, strongly developing during the Renaissance and much of the common practice period especially in the Baroque period. That's why I'm talking about it tonight, you know, Baroque music. There's a joke there. Yes, we played jazz. Yeah, we played Baroque jazz because no one paid us. And the term originates from the Latin punctus contra punctum, meaning point against point, that is, note against note. There are 6 species of counterpoint, and when I turn to the drum set, it doesn't matter how many, you could have big ass Doris here, hello lovely lady, or you could have your general 5-piece or even just a little 4-piece kit, that kind of thing. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. And what you've got is essentially 5 species. Now what happens when you're doing counterpoint and learning it in musical theory or this business? Species number 1 is note against note. We do it all the time. That's how it started. Note against note. Hi-hat. Now what can happen there, I'm going to do this a bit of a multi-layered thing. Now when you're doing that, what you're trying to do is have some intersecting lines with your melody. And what happens is that when you're doing note against note like that, oh, we know that as well. Good old rock and roll, you know, that kind of biz. So there's that. Then what can happen is that you can start to get into a kind of a polymetric kind of idea here, where one hand might be playing one time signature and the other hand is playing a second time signature. Now, we can have angles. You can have just one, I call that a star, just an asterisk, just one thing. You could have a 2, like a line. Sharks coming, watch out. Could have a triangle. Square. What can happen then? as you could put one against each other. So this is what happens if I just start with 2 drums. Line against a star. So 1 against 2 there. 2 against 2. Triangle. Line. Ooh. Air. Oh. Now, 5. Triplet. Not triple, 3. Sorry, I misspoke. So you get all this. Now, this is a great independence routine. We're used to in drumming some of the great independence books as Jimmy Chapin's Modern Techniques for the drummer, jazz drummer, as applied to bebop and, sort of thing. And doing, one hand doing one thing, the other hand doing something else and stuff. But I'm doing it from the point of view of a melodic thing. So you're starting to I'm cutting myself down in the middle. The left hand was doing 3, triangle, and the right hand was doing a line. But then you can do things like, as I said, you can get polymetrical, okay? I often say it, I keep coming back to it every few months, just so as a reminder, but polyrhythms and polymeters are 2 different things, really. A polyrhythm is 2 different beats against each other. The most famous is the hemiola, 3 against 2. And there's that, but a polymeter is 2 time signatures against each other, okay? So that's what happens there. Now, when we start doing things like that, you have, getting back to counterpoint, tricky lesson tonight, isn't it? What happens is that's 1 against 1, right? Note against note, unison. When we play the good old rock beat, like... Well, quavers, crotchets, right? 2 against 1. There's your line and triangle, but I'm doing 2 against 1. There it is there. You can have 4 against 1. That's the 3rd species. What shall I do here? Let's do a square. Nearly there. Then you have notes offset. That is the 4th species. And we know that best as probably a single stroke roll. So what I'm doing tonight, if you've just joined us, me and the audience, and counterpoint is what the name of the game is here. And what happens is that you've got the species of counterpoint, okay? And what happens is that you can have now the 4th species, which is notes offset against each other. As I said, the single stroke roll seems to reign supreme. So if I had this, and then there's offsets, you see. Line. Triangle, square, dance to that. Now, I'm going to change it up just a little. I'm going to put the snares on. I'm going to go to my multi-sticks. Tip on one end, hard mallet on the other. Do the little bit of flickage there. They're great for musical productions when you've got to go from a cymbal. And speaking of which, why not I do something counterpointy, pointy, birds, pointy, anoint my head, anointy. Steve Martin, Man with Two Brains. And previously, okay, Dillman's Grove, if anyone remembers that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the Dirty Harry. A man's guts to know his limitations. There you go. And what happens? I'm going to do a square here. And with the mallet, gives a slightly tone. You see, slightly different tone. One's soft, one's hard. Story of my life. Single stroke. Now what I'm going to do is keep my left hand on the snare drum money penny. Yeah. And what it is I'm going to keep doing that as an ostinato. And what happens here is I'm just going to do my left hand little frills, accents and all that sort of stuff. And then what happens is you get a built-in counterpoint. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. This is all I'm going to do, this. Slightly different tone, you see. Kukla. Where? Left hand, here we go. Oh, Philip Glass does a lot of that. Oompa. We used to call it tututiti, wow, tututiti, kind of thing. Einstein on the beach and all sorts of stuff. It's fascinating, quite repetitive. But if you're in for a good time, things get repetitive. I don't know where I'm going with my humour today. So what happens is there's that. Now the fifth species is all of the above. You just sort of you take the 2, 4, for that matter 3. You see, you get all that business going. And then what happens is that you can do the same kind of thing. Hello, Pooch, how are you? Are you doing all right over there? I know you didn't get your walk today, but you know you don't get a walk on Friday. I've got to do this stuff. I'll take you to the beach tomorrow if it's good weather. Okay, is that all right? Cut a deal? There you go. He lets me think I rule the house. He does. Come on. Oh, come on, Lefty. I pulled that burr out before. Oh, God help us all. All right, have a sit there then. Okay. So what happens is there it is. Now, I've got the angles. I've talked about polyrhythms and polymeters to a certain degree. And then what I'm talking about is timbre. Timbre meaning the different sounds you can make, all that business, going with what you've got in your hot little hands, a stick and a mallet, or a mallet and a stick, depending on what you want to do, you know, whatever it is. And then what starts to happen is that you can do separate things. And on the drum set, like I said at the beginning, you don't have to have a big kit or anything like that. The reason I've said it many times, I mean, the reason I have the extras over the side, anyone else's octopad, then you'll have one more, you know, that kind of, if you've got an octopad there and then a popcorn snare over the left, well, you've got more drums than I've got, you know, it just happens to be pads. And then over here, it's essentially, there it is, that's my explanation. And there it goes, but I need the notes. If you've got a keyboard in front of you, you know, the keys are that big, but, you know, you can press the key and it goes whoomp, like that. But if I need a whoomp, I need a big ass, you know, something like that, I tells you. So there you go. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm not just going to play a solo or anything like that. What I want to do is start to put a couple of things together. And you can break it up. Now, I was talking about the snare drum there and a single stroke roll. Right hand just goes around. Now, if you break it up, you know, you're separating the sounds. And then the snare drum part would be... You're breaking things up. You've got a couple of different things happening in a contrapuntal fashion. There you go. And that's it. Contrapuntal is the same as counterpoint. Being contrapuntal music is where you have intersecting melodic lines. Okay. If you've ever done Row, Row, Row Your Boat as a round, that is part of the fugue family, you see. And Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, little Jacques Offenbach's, and there it is. Sorry, I'm throwing myself off. He was the master of the fugue, and that is a melody, but one coming in over and under and in between, fifths apart, fourths apart, and it just goes, ooh. Dmitri Shostakovich, get your teeth in, Chris. Shostakovich, Moneypenny, gosh. It was also a bit of a master at the old counterpoint and fugue, or this biz. Now, what I'm going to do in that respect is that I am going to go to mallets now. And what I'm going to do here is change up the patch to South African singers. Same thing, E mixolydian. There's your flat 7. Once I get to a little bit of a lower register, the men kick in, you see. So it's men, women. There you go. So I could do something like, I'll just play, but I'll try and explain what I'm doing as I go. Now when I put it on, they're rudiments, okay? So if I'm going to go over to here, flam accents, all the little things that you do with flam rudiments on the snare drum, but I'm not doing it for that, you see, I'm doing other things. So I could do this. there, just one surface. There you are. You see, that's just something. I might expand on that a little bit on Sunday, where I do a little bit of a continuum thing. I leave everything up, and then on Sundays I do a little bit more of a performance-based thing rather than a teaching thing. In other words, I keep my mouth shut a bit more. And what goes on now, I better think about getting a regal on. And what goes on here is I'll just finish off now. I think you get the gist of what it is. Go look up Counterpoint. You're going to hear it in everyday things. You can't get away from it. It's a wonderful thing. Beethoven was a master of it. Bach with his fugues, all this business. But what happens, just to love and leave you a little bit, everything that I'm doing now is quite tonal. The E mixolydian mode with some lovely voices here. And when I started the show, I did the Air app. Okay, by Brian Eno, the app there, which is generating beautiful sounds between the voices and the piano there. And that is, depending on where you want to take it, that is generating an F Lydian mode. And what that is that you have a sharpened fourth. So basically it's the C major scale from F to F, you see. You take away the B flat that would normally be in an F major. Now the thing is, I've got an F Lydian, and I'm going to start playing an E mixolydian here. And this is called polytonality, of which Igor Stravinsky was famous for, with Le Sacre du Printemps, and that kind of thing. And all of a sudden, this beautiful sound, and hopefully the lovely South African singer's patch with the E mixolydian, which was lovely on itself, you put the two together in a contrapuntal style. Counterpoint, right? I'm just going to start doing it. They do this in movies all the time. go. Oh, I hope you enjoyed that. It's a little bit more, a little bit more technical tonight. It's always a little technical. You've got to learn something. Anyway, Counterpoint is the name of the game tonight. I've tried to mention a few things. The species, Hercules. The oils, mate. Species, species. Anyway, there you go. I'm going to love and leave you now. And what happens, I hope you get something out of it. Check them out. Counterpoint, look it up. It's there in your face for the... not a lot of people think about that with the drum kit so much. But what I've tried to do is give you a couple of angles with the old jingle jangles. And I'm going to bring the ladies back now. And love yous all. I'll have this up tomorrow. And now you can go off to your little Christmas parties and get a little bit sloshed. And there you go. There you go. Take care and I'll see you later. Hey! There we go.